All right, this is the answers for the assignment 2 to calculate the cash conversion cycle. All right, the instructions are first of all to fill out the yellow blocks. Well, 1 day sales, you take sales or revenue divided by 365. Sometimes students get confused. Sales and revenue are the same thing. Okay, so I got 1 day sales and 1 day cost of goods sold, which also you see cost of goods sold, cost of sales goes by a lot of different names. It's the next line in an income statement. Okay, so, and by the way, if you're new to Excel, since you're using formulas for all this, if you do one column and using formulas, you can then copy it over to all the other columns. Okay. Days of inventory would be inventory divided by 1 day's cost of goods sold. All right, so B6 over B10. Days of receivables. We take the receivables and divide those by 1 day's sales. That's because when you sell something, get a receivable, it include the price you sell it at includes not only the cost of goods sold, but also your markup and the extra you charge to pay for other expenses. So for days of receivables, we divide by 1 day's sales. And for days of payables, since the accounts payable is what the inventory purchases flow through, we divide by 1 day's cost of goods sold. All right, so the operating cycle is simply days of inventory plus days of receivables, and the cash conversion cycle is the operating cycle minus the days of payables. All right, so I have all that copied there. And since I'm using cell references, I can copy over to here. Now, a lot of people are telling me, oh, their days of sales are changing. That's not really a cash conversion cycle. A cash conversion cycle, we're talking about what's happening to their days of inventory, days of receivables, days of payables. For Lowe's, you can see that the days of inventory is increasing slightly. It's gone up roughly 5 days over the 5-year period we're looking at here. You can also see a pretty big change, about 10 or 11 days increase in the days of payables. They don't have any receivables. That's because they sell all their receivables to a third party who pays them cash on the barrelhead and then does all the work to manage and maintain it. And that takes the receivables off of the balance sheet for Lowe's. The operating cycle, roughly 90, 95 days. And the cash conversion cycle is reduced down to a little over a month simply because they have 2 months worth of payables out there. And that number has been going up. With Home Depot, we see that they have a lower days of inventory. That means that they're able to sell the same bundle of stuff more times during the year than Lowe's will. If they sell their entire bundle of stuff every 90 days, they'll turn it over about 4 times a year. They sell their bundle of stuff roughly every 70 days, which means they turn it over 5 or more times a year. Home Depot does have receivables. They sell to contractors and stuff, and some of that is they do this on purpose. That's their business model. It isn't better or worse, it's just different. And then their days of payable are a lot shorter as well. All right, so they ended up with an operating cycle shorter than the Lowe's operating cycle, and it sits there right around 78, 80 days. Their cash conversion cycle is slightly higher than Lowe's. That's because they don't tie up as much cash, or they don't free up as much cash through payables. Now, you could argue the higher the payables, the better, except that it doesn't always work like that. The numbers tell a story, but there's no good numbers or no bad numbers. All we can tell here is that Lowe's takes longer to pay its payables. Lowe's also sells more appliances than Home Depot, and when you're selling appliances, there tends to be a longer cash, a longer payable cycle with those. So some of this may simply reflect business mix. We can say it's different. We can't say necessarily it's better or worse. Okay, so that should have been some of the stuff you should have gotten.